Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video. Believe it or not, it's finally here. We're in the month of November, which is the Cybertruck month. We're just 29 days away from the big delivery event, and I know everybody's excited, so am I. So I've got a few things that I want to talk about today that's related to the Cybertrucks. Don't know if you are aware or not, but yesterday, the 31st of October, Elon Musk was on the Joe Rogan show. They talked a lot about the Cybertruck, and they gave us some very interesting details. Plus, they had a live demonstration to show how tough the Cybertruck truly is. Here is a quick summary of what was discussed. For the Cybertruck, depending on the configuration, it will be up to 7,000 pounds empty weight. And for the tri-motor, they're trying to go 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. The Cybertruck body is bulletproof to a Tommy gun, 45 and or a 9mm pistol, and they also did a live demonstration where they showed that it is arrow proof. So let's take a look at a quick video clip of that discussion.
Just beware of ricochets. You might want to do it at a slight angle. You know what I mean? Look at that. There it is. Very nice. See, that's blew the arrow apart. Nice. Yeah. Flatten the tip of the arrow. Look at the tip of the broadhead. That's impressive.
So as you can tell from that live and fairly impromptu demonstration, the Cybertruck is able to withstand a fairly close range, high-powered arrow strike onto the door. They're going to be releasing a video from the previous bullet test on the doors, and they did reiterate that the glass itself is not bulletproof. The Cybertruck also is going to have the best ground clearance of any vehicle in its class, up to about 14 inches, using the air suspension to change the height. Also, they mentioned that there's no differential or any other drivetrain components that stick down that would be damaged during off-road. So it gives Cybertruck some unique advantages. Initially, they're going to try to make about 200 to 250,000 annually when fully ramped up, and it's going to be about 12 to 18 months until that happens. The limiting factor is the complexity of the production line itself. And Elon said that they didn't underestimate the challenges. They knew that it was going to be tough. It's just working through the production part of the Cybertruck is proving difficult at this time. He also mentioned that it's very rare that car companies start from scratch and survive, and very few have done so. And this product is, again, a challenging product, especially from the production line processes. So anyway, there's a quick review of some of the biggest Cybertruck news that is going on right now. And again, we're just 29 days from the delivery event. So let's get into the drone. Let's fly around Giga-Texas, and let's take a look at what we'll find around the site today. If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. Well, good morning and happy first day of November here at Giga-Texas. And I have a lot to show you today, including some very interesting Cybertrucks all over the site, specifically some crab walking testing on the south end, and that'll be towards the end of the video. But right now, I'm going to start at the north end here at the northeast corner of casting, just give you a good idea of some of the equipment and continued work to put the wires through the cables and connect the facility to the Megapack's second transformer. Also, more of these crates have been delivered. Some of them are marked with Mino, that's automation equipment, and I'm not sure if the rest of it is related. There were no markings on the new crates that were delivered. But as we fly across the north end, passing the paint shop on the left and the plastics manufacturing on the left, we get to where the 4680 cell section continues to have construction inside. You can tell that some wall panels have been removed underneath the tall platform, some of the windows as we've seen in the past, and more of the steel waiting for the assembly inside. And as I mentioned before, and as Tesla mentioned at the third quarter financial results meeting, they're expanding from 1 operational and 3 almost operational lines to eventually 8 in the 4680 cell production area of the factory, which is amazing. And that's going to take place over the next probably 10 to 12 months. We do see more equipment here on the west side of the end of the 4680 and the start of the general assembly. It looks like this is more items that will be going in for some of the assembly lines that continue to be set up, tested, and being prepared for further production inside this entire section of the building. As I continue to fly further to the south, there's several interesting details here that I want to show you. First is the temporary end of line. That's where these 2 ramps are. You can see some of the Model Ys coming back now. One of them is dirty. That's bringing the drivers from the east back over here. And as you can tell, a brand new Model Y just exited. And then they're going to go over and bring that driver back. As I continue to fly south over the main entrance, we can see that the trapezoid with that stone glass has been cleaned up. They're still trying to deal with a little bit of leaching of the material that's kind of gluing that down to the pedestal, and you can see a little bit of that here on the concrete. But also we see yet another Cybertruck, and what I'm going to try to do, it's very difficult with the lighting and some of the obstacles, but if you saw that intro where Joe Rogan shot an arrow at the vehicle, I think this is actually that Cybertruck. And I'm trying to see if it's possible to get an idea if we can see the dent on the rear door. It's from this angle and from this distance, it's really hard, but I'm pretty sure that this is the same truck that Joe Rogan was using in the interview with Elon yesterday. And here's a close-in view trying to look at the doors and just to see if that's identifiable. And actually, I think I did see a small dent on that rear door. So anyway, I thought this was pretty cool. And if that is in fact the case, then this kind of confirms it's the Cybertruck that Elon has been driving around Austin in the last several days. But as we approach back over the main entrance, I want to fly over towards where the horizontal drilling operation has now finally completed the pull of that large HDPE pipe. And in addition to that, they've completed the pull of the smaller HDPE pipes through the larger one. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow them to connect the conduits, which are in the kind of diagonal trench here, through that pipe, through those smaller pipes over to the end of line facility, and that will connect the main building and this building with electrical power. Now, as we cross over the highway, I'll give you a good view of how the end of line facility looks today. The roof work is nearly completed, and they're almost getting ready to start working on the walls on the south end. And speaking of which, there's quite a bit of trench work now on this south large clearing. And this entire area is going to be joined together. Part of it will be a warehouse on wheels, and part of it will be the new outbound lot for the new vehicles and the trucks to pick them up. As I fly to the north along the east side of the building, this gives you a good sense of how the end-of-line building is coming along, and almost all of the roof, almost all of the walls, you can see those transparent layers in the walls that allows a lot of ambient lighting through. And Here on the north end, there's this pit. I'm going to try to bring the drone down and look in. And what you'll see is that large HDPE pipe just sticking out. And you can tell the smaller HDPE pipes with that kind of the rings around them to keep them kind of in a certain bundle and also ease the pull through that pipe. That has now been completed, and as I mentioned earlier, the electrical wires will go through that and then connect over to the conduits that have been installed. This is a good view looking from the north to the south at the north end of the building. Almost all the walls here are completed as well. And as I pull up to a higher altitude and pivot the drone, this gives you a good view of this overall area, specifically all of the work that's going on in the end of the outbound lot here, and also the preparation for more paving on this main road. And they're just putting some of that kind of oil mix down first, and then the paving will be done on top of it. And in fact, some of that's being done at the very top of the screen. So I'm going to pull the drone up further to the north, give you a good overall view of this West Support Facility area that continues to see a lot of work. And then here is the north staging location with those two large tents and a lot of other equipment and some of the containers. Also, some of the glass that used to be stored here has now been moved. You don't see that in that corner section anymore. It's all down under the South Bridge, which is kind of an interesting choice. We can see that the road work is continuing to extend here to the north. They're going to have to be moving some of these power poles and, of course, the steel items that are being stored here at this far north staging location as well. I want to also fly over towards the new intersection where Tesla Road is being widened. Also, Farm to Market 973 is being widened in both the north and the south directions. This is a good view of how the intersection looks right now. You can see those concrete vaults, those kind of the square items next to the road. Those are being used for water management all along the newly widened road. And you can see the work to widen Farm to Market 973 in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. So all of this continues to have a lot of work to finish up this widened and expanded access point for Giga-Texas. As we fly back towards the main factory, this is a good view of some of the steel that's being stored on the right-hand side of the Tesla Road, and also how the factory looks today. Because it's much colder, you can see a lot of the vapors emanating up from some of the vents and some of the other sections on top of Giga-Texas. It's been a while since we've actually seen that because it's been so warm. But today it was probably about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, or that would be maybe about 3 or 4 degrees Celsius at the time of my flying. So let's get ready to cross back over the highway and we'll resume the flight up at the Megapack site. Crews are continuing to work on this covered section on the platform for this pole. It looks like they have a large man lift and they're getting ready to do some of the connections for the main wires that go under the ground through some of the trenches and conduit over to the north part of the Megapack site. This gives you a good view of what this looks like today. And interestingly enough, the covered section on the north part of the Megapack has been uncovered and crews are working there today, and I'll give you some good views here shortly. But what I wanted to look at here, we talked about it a little bit earlier about the conduit near the east side of the casting machine structure and the work to run the wires through there. That's so that this transformer at the middle of the screen can eventually become operational. The bus breakers are still not connected, so it's not operational yet, but you can see that almost all of the wiring has been completed. It looks like there's a utility truck near where the wiring has a few more connections to be made. As I fly up over the power lines, I want to give you a good view down at the Megapack North site. As I mentioned, that area that had the white plastic covering, it has been removed. There are a lot of workers today on this platform, and they're making the final connections to the wires that go through the trenches. And you can see some of that dirt section on the top of the screen. And that goes up to that covered area with the pole that we talked about earlier. This is a really good view of the size of the workers to give you a good idea of the scale and some of the work that they are doing on the north end. As I continue to pull back towards the south, you can get a good view of how that north end looks with the perimeter fence, all of the wiring that has been completed, and that gray control room, and then of course the mega packs themselves. And looks like they're continuing to do the final checkouts and preparations for bringing the mega pack online. It's very close to happening now. So as I zoom back out, I'll bring the drone up to a higher altitude and give you a good view of the overall mega pack and electrical switchyard section. And then now I'm going to fly over towards the east, and we'll resume the flight over near the die shop and the battery cathode plant. Thought I would drop down here and just show you how the intersection is continuing to progress. You can see more of the work to extend Tesla Road from the left to the right near where these trees are and the divided median. See more trucks bringing dirt out from this section, heading over towards the multi-level parking garage, which we'll see a little later. We also see some work on the windows, the alleyway, and also on the east side of the battery cathode plant. So I'm going to reposition the drone here to give you a good view of this east side. We'll start from here. The large water detention pond is taking shape. It looks like on the left there's going to be maybe a section for the steel corrugated pipe to allow drainage from this large pond. You can also see some of the drainage pipes near the crash test facility as well. And I'm going to continue to fly parallel to the battery cathode plant and show you how this earthwork has continued to progress. And it looks like there's some white, I don't know if those are sticks on what looks like maybe an extension of the road that kind of terminates over by the trees. I'm not sure exactly what this is going to be when they're finished, but I will continue to watch and we can find out together. But this is a really good view looking back towards the main factory of how this east side looks and how it continues to progress. Now, another thing that I did notice near these trees is more of those steel corrugated pipes have been moved and are being temporarily stored in this section. Now, this may be related to that drainage section that we talked about earlier for that large water detention pond. On the northeast side, this gives you a good view of how this clearing continues to change. A lot of dirt being stockpiled on the bottom side. You can see those islands with the trees still waiting for the power poles to be removed, and also a good view up to that large rectangular field with a lot of the materials being stored. You can get a good sense of the power lines that are still connected here and the poles onto these islands, and also looking back towards the cathode plant and the main factory of how this entire northeast side looks today. The equipment here continues to change. The stainless steel tanks still waiting for their turn to be installed at some point in the future. And this is a good view of the north end of the cathode plant and the east side and how it looks today. Also the cell test and recycling lab on the left. On the north end here, it looks like most of the trenching has been completed just to the north of that concrete apron with the receiving doors. Looks like some work is being finished up here with that. We can also see the concrete vaults just going underneath the screen and the blue and green pipes on the right. As I pull back slightly, you can get a good sense of where those are being installed in those concrete vaults on the left as part of the lift station. Fortunately, this area is driving out pretty well considering that we had a lot of rain and cold weather over the last several days. It looks like they're continuing to widen this berm even further, and this is continuing to encroach into what used to be that Martin Marietta concrete batch plant on the right-hand side of the screen. You can tell the workshop on the left that was modifying the pipes is now gone, and also that furnace underneath the cover on the left looks like it's continuing to have small work done. On this side, we can see that the underground trenching and installation of the steel corrugated pipes looks to be nearly completed. But I did notice this. Look at the bottom, middle of the screen, and I'll try to give you a good view of that as we go by. It looks like large sections of slab from inside the die shop have been cut. And if that's the case, then it looks like there may be a change going on the inside to reconfigure part of the ground slab. As I've brought the drone back up to the north end, this is a good view of that furnace on the right, some of the activity on the north side of the die shop, and of course the chiller plant of the battery cathode plant. And I'll bring the drone a little bit to the north. We'll come back and take a look at the alleyway, but what I want to show you is at the bottom of the screen, you can see all of that fresh, light dirt that had geotextile membranes put in there in the last video. And now they've started to fill this up with dirt. So I think they're preparing to have this entire section paved in the near future. As we fly over the chiller plant, we can see the Vapco fans are not working today, maybe because of the temperature. And this is also a good view of some of the work that is being done with the vaporizers and the nitrogen tanks on the left, and more of the concrete work on the right-hand side next to the die shop. Now I'm going to reposition the drone, look back here towards the stainless steel tanks, the vaporizers, and the white tanks. You'll note that the mounts for the tanks have now been excavated, and I'll give you a good look at that here. And what it appears is that maybe the original footings for the tanks failed inspection, and it looks like they are doing a large reinforcement for those right now, and then those tanks will be moved back. We also see a good section here with form and rebar for a lot more concrete on this part of the die shop, extending up to where the main entrance will be. So I'm going to reposition the drone now back towards the main factory over the employee overflow lot. We're going to take a look at what's going on in the outbound lot today. I'm going to stop here briefly and take a look at this trailer. This is what was painted at the last shareholders meeting. It's obviously got the Cybertruck, but if you look at the graffiti and all those lines, that actually is the main entrance for Giga-Texas. And when it was being painted, it was pretty neat because they were doing that right in front of the main entrance at the time. Now here we're at the outbound lot. Looks like there's a lot of Model Ys today. There are no Cybertrucks in the outbound lot, at least at the time of my flying, but we're going to see more at different locations soon. But this is a good view of how the outbound lot looks today, and how the activity with loading them up on trucks is going on. I did see several trucks loaded completely up with Model Ys departing the site today. So pretty active in manufacturing and transporting the vehicles. As I get over towards the construction site here, which includes a road and the multi-level parking garage, I'm going to give you a good view here at the underground manifold system that goes underneath the road on the right. What they're doing here is, with the formwork, is they're finishing up the outfall channel for those pipes. They have a large bucket of concrete that's being used to finish up that construction site. As we proceed over towards the testing and calibration lot, right over the wind tunnel and that large green generator, this gives you a good view of the activity here with a lot of the Model Ys. Many of them are over getting supercharged, and I did happen to notice there is a Cybertruck here also getting supercharged. It looks like it's a new vehicle, looking at the kind of the white tags on the tires, but it does look like it's also been driven into some of the muddy sections as well. And that may be just because it's impossible to avoid that here at Giga-Texas with all the construction. But I think this is a really good view of another Cybertruck supercharging here on the east side. So while I'm here, I want to get a little closer to the east side of the main building. You can see the stain work that is continuing to work towards the north. And also with this zoomed in view, we can get a good sense of this covered receiving docks that they are installing and making these kind of these black framed covers. You can see more of them on the ground getting ready to be installed as well. Also, this concrete section in front of the receiving doors is continuing to get more of the formwork for that shelf where the load levelers will be. Pretty interesting, as that's the only place at Giga-Texas that has those covered type of receiving docks. Now at the multi-level parking garage construction site, this gives you a good sense of the west side footings and the construction that continues here. On the left, you can see more footings with formwork being placed and getting ready for the concrete next. We can also see some plumbing work on that west side. In the middle, the geopiers are active today, and I'll give you a good view of some of that activity here shortly. And on the left-hand side, we can see all of the steel corrugated pipe being arranged into this manifold section. Looks like some gravel's now being poured on top of that. It's possibly for the construction, but also helps prevent them from floating with all of the rainwater that we've had during the construction. That's important. Otherwise, they can be moved with the water. Of course, there's going to be a road that goes across that once they are finished. I'll stop here shortly, give you a good view of some of the pipe that's being stored and some of the brackets that connect them together. And then, as I mentioned, here's a good look at the geopier work underway. As I've mentioned before, you have the smaller drill that makes the holes. That little bobcat brings over the gravel mix, puts it into the hole, and then you have that large and tall compactor that crushes it and makes the piers themselves. Here's also a good view of the continued work on the footings. You can see the forms and preparation on the right-hand side of the screen for concrete. And on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see more of those rebar cages being pre-assembled and getting ready to be installed into those footings. So I'm going to continue to fly further to the south along the east side of the stamping machine structure. One of the things that you can see is the white paint or stain has been applied on that corner piece now, so that looks like it's completed. You can see the extent of all of the footings that are being installed. We also see some steel items near where those two black cars went around that curve. And we also see quite a bit of other interesting details, which I will show you at a lower altitude here shortly. But this is a really good view overall of the south end and how it is continuing to progress. The footings, you can definitely tell that they're working their way from the east to the west. They're almost at the middle point of that Stamping 2 extension section that has a lot of the scaffolding. They're also applying a lot of the white stain using that scaffolding, and also more scaffolding on the south end with that white stain work. I'm going to bring the drone down here at a lower altitude on this east side. I want to give you some good detail view of the footings and how this construction is continuing. The odd-shaped ones are basically the perimeter grade beam, and it goes from west to east, and then you can see the diagonal here in the middle of the screen. And then the rest of the footings have got most of the rebar in. Some of them have concrete, and they're getting ready to do the pedestal mounts for the steel columns that will be mounted. And I'll bring this drone down in a little lower, and you can see how this is working. You can see where they have some of them with concrete. You can see the rebar mount sticking up out of the middle. And then here you can see the forms that are around those rebar mounts where they'll pour the concrete and it'll make that actual base where the column will connect to. This is a good view of the tanks on the right and some of the materials waiting for installation. More of the work with the forms on these footings, and a good look down into the footings here. And also just how this entire site continues to have really quick work done with installing the rebar and getting the concrete installed for these footings. It's a good view of the side of the extension of the Stamping 2, and they're applying that textured gray material before they put the white stain. And then here's a good look at the footings that are continuing to work their way towards the west. Now I want to show you kind of the progression of how the footings are made. On the left, you can see where the workers are in the pit. They've broken up the concrete for the piles and exposed the rebar. In the middle, they put the rebar cage and they're connecting it to those rebar piles. And on the right, they've already got the concrete poured and preparing for that mount for the columns. As I approach up towards the Stamping 2 extension, you can get a good view here close in of how this south end looks. But I'm going to kind of divert away from looking at the construction. I did notice this Cybertruck, and I was very fortunate to be able to film this. And what we're going to see is they're doing testing of how the Cybertruck can do what is called a crab walk or a crab drive. And I'll zoom in so you get a good view here, but notice the rear wheels are turned with the front wheels, and the Cybertruck is actually sliding to the right. So it's not driving straight, it's actually crabbing. And it looks like this is a test of this system. And we're going to be fortunate because they're going to turn around and come right back at us, and they're going to do another test of this crab walk feature that the Cybertruck obviously is going to be equipped with. So take a look at the direction of the rear wheels and front wheels and the motion of the Cybertruck, how it's crabbing to the right and going straight, but the body is turned. So a very interesting capability. And as we continue to follow the Cybertruck, you'll note that it will stop here, a worker come out, and the driver will be talking to the worker and be moving the front wheels, kind of talking about how that is working, most likely as part of the test of that crab walk capability. So pretty neat, and I was very fortunate to be able to capture that for you. And we're going to see the Cybertruck re-enter the building at this point and disappear on the inside. As I pull back away and take a look more at the construction activities, we see that the crane that was being used as the drill for the continuous flight auger piles looks like it's being prepared for disassembly. The actual drill parts themselves are here on the left-hand side of the screen next to those circular cut sections of the pipe. And maybe this is signaling that the pile construction is now complete across this entire side. And if that's the case, we should start seeing footing work continuing to accelerate across this entire section of the building. So that's a pretty good look at a lot of activity here on the 1st of November, which is the month of the Cybertruck deliveries. And we were very fortunate to be able to see some testing of a new feature that I don't know if many people knew about, the Cybertruck having the crab walking capability. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I do very much appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care.